fellow Sierra Leoneans, this na Dr. Sylvia Blyden. And today, Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. This na my 78th audio in my ongoing series of broadcast to the people of this great nation. We go call them audio number 078. And inside this audio today, now one green issue we can discuss. That's not the United Nations, and waiting at the United Nations them views on street protests and demonstrations. Let me apologize because I say this audio I dey pull am last night when a Monday, but the whole of yesterday on tonight so busy. They engage different people, groupings, discussions on keeping Sierra Leone stable, peaceful, and democratic. So by the time I done all my various engagements them yesterday, I done late. And you see the audios here I can pull, I can want for day in a good frame of mind so that my research work I don't do are they able for explain them to una so that una they able understand. So I apologize we not come out yesterday, but I they assure una say it worth the wait because I they can't take me time for help una. Especially me ordinary compatriots them na this country. I want to know for understand what in really United Nations say about protests. At this point, I want to make a special observation. United Nations, they get representation inside this country. When are they supposed for talk about what in United Nations they for? And are they supposed for clarify when people them they misrepresent what in the United Nations not ever say. For example, if somebody make a broadcast and say to the citizens of Sierra Leone that on August 10th, when not tomorrow, then for come out and then go take over State House, then go take over Parliament, then go take over the Presidential Lodge, who sign at the residence of His Excellency the President and in family. Then for go take over state institutions by force. And then for repeat, waiting we see happen na Sri Lanka then this year, where people then take over Sri Lanka state institutions by force. And later on in this broadcast, I go talk about Sri Lanka a little bit. But if we see somebody, they make that kind of broadcast, they say by force, then for go take them power back, with them in give to President Madabio and the SLPP government. And then after that, he provide justification for that by sharing one tweet where one man overseas, where then they call Mr. Vule, Clement Vule, where they work for the United Nations as a special rapporteur. He provide that tweet they tell people then say United Nations don't support waiting in the plan for go take over by force, for go take over government, overthrow Madabio in government. He say United Nations don't, now the evidence this say United Nations deal with them, and this violence where they want for deal. And we find out say the one them way now the actual United Nations them they're not able to correct, clarify, and make the people of Sierra Leone know, say, no, this not what this United Nations stands for. This not a peaceful protest. For go take over State House, take over Parliament, take over the president in all society tap. Not a peaceful protest. United Nations, they support peaceful protest. So the observation where I get this first thing this morning now that something is somewhere not going according to how it should be going. The silence from the United Nations inside Sierra Leone gives me pause. Make her the wonder. Say if somebody somewhere don't compromise himself. But me a matured senior citizen of this country. So I will stop at this point. But let me just say that observation where I just don't talk, I hope those we supposed for talk for the United Nations inside this country go rise up to the task and help me for talk to people them about what the United Nations actually dey for. Because if they don't stand up and help me to talk to Sierra Leoneans about what the United Nations stand for, which is peaceful protest, then some of us as global citizens, we know how to file complaints. We will file complaints. I hope say I no go for reach that stage there. Because something does not add up here. Once again, my observation what I just don't make. I hope those inside this country we suppose for the talk for United Nations, when are the official voice of the United Nations, I hope say then go join me for explain to the people of Sierra Leone, either through a press release, a press statement, or a public facial video message to the people of Sierra Leone that the United Nations supports peaceful protest and not the violent overthrow of President Julius Maada Bio and his SIPP-led government. I hope the United Nations go join me for tell the people of Sierra Leone that anybody will say them for come on a street and go knock then a street, stay and take over State House, Parliament, President in all society tap, and the citizens for take over there by force. I hope the United Nations go join me, Dr. Sylvia Blyden, for tell me fellow Sierra Leoneans, say this is not what United Nations means when they say peaceful protest. So if I don't reach end my people them, make a canal to what the United Nations actually represent, what the United Nations dey for, and most importantly, that message, that tweet, within the share by one man we name Clement N. Vule. This man here, he not they speak for United Nations at all. Then call a special rapporteur. A special rapporteur in work now for gather information, for present to the United Nations, and for also engage on issues we got to do with peaceful protests and freedom of assembly. He not get no right for speak on behalf of the United Nations, not at all. I can challenge that any side. The person will get right for speak on behalf of the United Nations on human rights issues, that the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and that in office, the office of the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights. This man, Clement Vule, will then they share in tweet, then call a special rapporteur, me to say him for the gather information, gather data, gather write-up, and present them to the United Nations Human Rights Council. Forget the council for get an update around the world waiting to happen about human rights with respect to street protests. But for say get right for can talk categorically the position of the United Nations, no, you not get that right there. The only person we can talk on United Nations and human rights, and categorically then say that United Nations don't talk, at the Human Rights Commissioner, or the Office of the Human Rights Commissioner. Now that office day, just yesterday, August 8th, then put out a statement where then they quote plenty rapporteur them from different United Nations rapporteur them, then position where they make on Sri Lanka. Yes, this same Sri Lanka where some people then they quote to Una about how they take over the government. It go interest Una for no say yesterday the United Nations, just yesterday, the United Nations, the official person way for talk, the official office way for talk, then put out a statement where they then quote now because then can quote waiting the special rapporteur then say. But the special rapporteur cannot speak for United Nations. So then put out just yesterday this statement on the situation at Sri Lanka. And the situation at Sri Lanka now, according to the United Nations, the official United Nations person, now it was passed before they overthrow the president. I repeat, it was now. Because the person now we don't take over. After they overthrow the president, we then civilian and can and take over the palace, then take over the state house, take over the parliament. The man now we don't come, when I then say this now don't replace that president, we then don't drape. The United Nations yesterday, August 8th, then say the situation now, it don't worse. Now then the old journalist, then the old then lawyer them, then the old civil society activists, and just go lock them all up. No more protests, then they encourage self. What in this mean? Two things. One, even when the special rapporteur gets something for say about the situation, how it don't bad off now in Sri Lanka, it don't worse now for demonstrators them before they may overthrow the president. He not get the authority of Ion for can talk am. Pass he go to the actual policy when the United Nations person is show and force saying that this now don't happen, that this information I don't compile. He and the other rapporteur there, because they get rapporteur the way they all for the compile notes around the world on different things. This day for freedom of protest, this day for freedom of movements, this day for rights against torture, this all them rapporteur then they no longer right for talk on behalf of the United Nations. None of them. Inside Sierra Leone, yeah, we get who that's supposed for talk for United Nations. He empowered for talk for United Nations. But I dey wait for see if he not go talk for United Nations. But that man way in tweet, una dey share. When he want talk for Sri Lanka, how the situation not bad off now for people in Sri Lanka, he not able to talk. Pass he go to the United Nations Human Rights Council and ask them, say, dear, una put out this for me. The council get for look what he say before them put them out as an official United Nations document. He not get one power for talk for United Nations. One he not get. And in fact, that telling us something where some of us don't even know. When I see that tweet, where they tweet, that account where they tweet with, that's a United Nations account, oh. Now in personal account, like me Sylvia Blyden, my personal account where I get. That man in personal account, he grab, he go put the UN rapporteur, not to no United Nations account. Now the man in personal account where he don't get all the years here. Because they appoint him as rapporteur, he pull in name, he go put the UN rapporteur. Which is correct in a UN rapporteur, but he not get no powers, he not get no authority for speak on behalf of the United Nations. So as from today, anytime una see that man they tweet, una know say na in personal opinion na he dey give. In personal opinion, he does not speak for the United Nations. Quote me any side. Special rapporteur do not speak for the United Nations. They compile information and give it to the United Nations to use. They engage with governments for remind governments about waiting or for compile information from governments, but they do not speak on behalf of the United Nations. Up to yesterday, when the manual for condemn the new government in Sri Lanka, where the joke say, they allow protesters and say, they will stay with them quick as the new president. It was past the way then drab. The one with them, it was past the way then drab. In just they arrest journalists, they arrest lawyer them. In fact, that's why sweet me. They lawyer the way they arrest because a lawyer will get some lawyer the way. A lucky motorman and kind of day. They halaki some lawyer them. That's what I say. A lucky motorman them mislead this country. They say they're a lawyer them. So anyway, take note. That Clement Vule, now in personal account, not to no United Nations account. He does not speak for the United Nations. He's not authorized to speak for the United Nations. He's just a special rapporteur. That is the first point. Please me people them. And the first issue that I want to handle to Una. The second issue, I want for now can tell Una what in the United Nations actually say about protests. Because the one the way then I will for tell Una. Well, I hope so then go join me soon for begin explain to Una what in the United Nations say about protests. The United Nations now one great thing them for man for. One great thing. For peace. Peace. Stability. Love. Joy. Happiness. How much a man for day in a state of happiness and peace. Even the environment for they at peace. Then tigre for they at peace. The animals then for they at peace. That's United Nations therefore. United Nations is equal to peace. And why they form United Nations? Now after the world may get fearful wars them. They may get World War I, then get World War II. We much a man then suffer during them wars then they. Now make people then from different countries then come together. Then say, oh, from one body where all countries them go dey inside that body day. And the one grain work where that body they for. Now how for make sure say war not dey na this world. How for make sure say peace dey na this world. That United Nations dey for. And after them form United Nations, shortly after them form them, then can realize say for make peace go dey. Every single human being in the world suppose forget rights we for the enjoy. Because if somebody not able to enjoy certain rights, then the world not go dey at peace. So the United Nations then come together and then form what they call the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. The Universal Declaration on Human Rights. We mean to say universally around the world, as far as United Nations concerned, once na this universe you dey, and once you na human being, you get certain rights them where nobody not supposed for take away from you. And then list them rights then inside this document we then call the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. And this document it get 30 parts them panam. 30. Each of them parts then call them articles. Today, I'm not going to look at all the 30 articles. But today, me people them, I want for me to talk about 5 of them 30 articles then they. Because them 5 then they very important to waiting they happen, especially the appeal what they make to my fellow citizens say make nobody not jump na street for cause violence and say una wan for overthrow and pull a democratically elected president by force. For say una wan for go na the house where the state don't make for the president and him family, and una wan take over the house. For say una wan go na state house and take over the state house. Una wan go na parliament and take over the parliament. I dey appeal to una say no, no, no. So I can discuss 5 of the United Nations, the articles on human rights. 4 of the articles here, them very serious how I can discuss them. One of them, when at the number 5, in that for just make we laugh small, so that the story goes sweet small bit. Now, the first one, say, Article 13, freedom of movement. All human beings get freedom of movement. The second one, what I want to discuss today, now Article 20. All human beings get freedom for assemble. That is for gather, for decide to they assemble, they march, they protest. You get right. The third one, well, in last I can mention, so I'll go first to the fourth one. Article 29. Now, Article 29. So interesting, me people, them. Article 29 say, all the rights that a human being get. The United Nations recognize, say, each and every one of them rights then they where you get. That's not the right for jumping a street, the right for freedom of movement, and all the other rights that way you get. Each of them rights then they subject to a limitation. Yes, that's what Article 29 to say. United Nations recognize, say, in as much as you get right for do enjoy your life, right to freedom, right to movement how you want, right to assemble how you want. The United Nations also recognize limitations for dependent rights than they, as long as the limitation they under an enacted law. Yes, that's what United Nations say. Article 29. It says once the law now for security, public order, morality, and most importantly, once that law dey now for make sure say do you respect the rights and the freedoms of other people them, then can limit that your right where you get. So for example, we get one famous footballer, Mohamed Touré. Then there's here, he dey drive for go corner for go play football match with one of my small brothers, Sam Memphis, na the mean inside the motorcar. When they reach Masingbi, then block them, then see them they demonstrate. That na then days the way they may say then get that demonstration. Then force the man for turning motorcar around, then say you can never pass Naya for go na corner. So then block an atonko lily, then force them. And they get for turn round. Then force vehicles, then buses, vehicles, turn them all around by force. Say nobody know they pass for go inside corner, nobody know they come out corner for kind inside tonko lily. Block the road with big tick them. That means say you don't cross the line. You no longer they protest for your rights. You no longer they enjoy your rights to assembly. Now you don't cross the line. You don't go affect the next man in your freedom of movement. So Mohamed Bouya want for go play football match at Kono. You don't block her. You don't stop. You don't hamburg in your enjoyment of in rights. Because you say you they enjoy your rights to protest. So United Nations say, nah. We not they ever support that. Usa, you say you they go protest. You go and bug other person. It's inside Article 29 of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. United Nations, they support that. So you will say you want protest. The word was synonymous with the United Nations. Now, peaceful. Peaceful. So if now a peaceful protest, United Nations, they with you. But a protest where you block Mohamed Bouya, not for go play football na kono. You block all them boss they want for pass. What if Bella may inside one them boss day? What if hypertension patients may inside one them boss day? You block in right for enjoy in movement because you say you the protest. United Nations not supports that too. Article 29 is very, very clear on that. In fact, Article 29(3, I dey read them for now specifically what he say. He said these rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. It means to say inside Creole, the United Nations, they tell you, say, United Nations, we there for peace. Everything about the United Nations with purposes, with principles, na peace. So in as much as we they tell you, say, you get the right for freedom of movement, you get the right for freedom of assembly. United Nations also, they tell you inside that same declaration, they say, you not get the right as long as it go against what the United Nations stands for. And United Nations stands for peace. United Nations stands for democracy. United Nations stands for respect for law and order. United Nations stands for respect for authorities. So United Nations can never support the call by ERNEST BAI KOROMA in Poppy, where they tell una say una go take over State House, take over Parliament, take over Presidential Lodge. United Nations can never support it. United Nations emphasis is always on peace. Peaceful protest. If you watch, peaceful protest. That United Nations could support. Not a protest where they go block, where Mohamed Bouya want go play in a corner. Not a protest where they go threaten people them. So now, and they can't play for a 6 audio. It's a very disgusting audio. Very, very disgusting. But I want you now for listen to them very keenly. This is an audio where somebody make on Sunday. When you are listening and done, then I come inside now and continue this broadcast. When you are done at the canal, we can talk some more about the United Nations. But now listen this audio.
Operation Shidon I use for 3 days. 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 They give them 3 days. Motoka no the waka, Okada no the waka, shop no the open. Whether they may get na patapi Okada, then they sell fuel for you. Because you company them, if they feel free, you company them not they feel free. If you okay na you company them not okay. Now so get for the motoka pass so as long as that transport motoka, would they damage the one the way they did. Would they damage it? But if you sit down house, not you know they meet you. She don't know after 3 days, but they're not giving lock that way past 3 days. They're not lock with and they lock with back. These 3 days, I not go be a. Where you go sell, you not go know that they can put market safe. Then beat you good and proper. If they go, she don't use. You open shop, you not go know the bubble the way they sell fuel, they then capu back, then beat you. Go need they go, they don't use. You don't sell complete 4 years. Better not follow you. Eh, bo, that 3 days now, I not go sit down. That 3 days now, I not go sit down. The 10 do boss na line. The 10 for command do ya today be the last day. Tomorrow na lockdown. The 8 na lockdown, the 9 na lockdown, the 10 na lockdown. What you get for bye-bye and today? And that's me get for tell Luna.
Now me people them when I don't listen this person where they identify himself say in an old woman, but when I hear the kind words them where they come on a mouth. When I hear the kind threats them where they come on a mouth. How if they meet Okada on the street, then they take petrol, then turn up on the Okada rider and the passenger and burn them alive. Una hear the kind words them way they talk. Say if trader pull you market na do, then go send them bobo them for go scatter the market. Una hear 6 minutes we pull on Sunday, August 7th. If na myself, I get market. If na myself, I get Okada. If na myself, I get commercial vehicle. I go scared for Pula. Because if all mami like that, they tell people then say, then get plans the way they don't plan. In addition to waiting with all yeri ERNEST BAI KOROMA'S in Popina, Holland, Adebayo. We all yeri the kind threats the way they threaten anybody we come on a line. We yeri the kind threats. If not myself, I know they come out. That they happened yesterday. They threatened the people, intimidated people. Threatening people then say if they come out for exercise their rights. If they come out for exercise their rights for being market trader, then rights for move, then right for fine living by on your Okada, then go burn you alive with petrol. These are all mami they talk. If they repeat waiting at the bio, don't say for be done. Then you get people the way they say, then kind threats, then they not United Nations, they support then kind threats, then they. No way. No way. United Nations can never support such violence. And now they call again on the one that we're supposed to speak on behalf of the United Nations. When I not go tell we say, when I not don't notice how then they misinform we ordinary gullible citizens them. How then they lie to we ordinary citizens them. How then they use the tweet of Clement Volley for fool with people then. Clement Volley in personal tweet from in private account, not even a United Nations account. The one that we for talk on behalf of UN. When I not go tell we say when I not know, when I not see. But some of we are global citizens and we know the doors them for knock. We know the letters them for write. And if we have to do it to protect our country, if we have to start writing letters to ensure those who should know where they should know, that certain people placed in certain places are not behaving as they are supposed to behave, and they talk from Ekuna no say, we know what to do. We know where to start writing letters. That kind of threat would that woman they talk. United Nations can't support that. In fact, like now to the third article. We can read out for now 3 articles. I don't read out for now Article 13, when the freedom of movement inside any country. You know the right for stop somebody where I move. I don't read out for now Article 20, when the freedom of assembly. You get right for grab and assemble any side. You get that right there. But I also don't read out for now Article 29, where they say all the rights and the way you get, they all get limitation. And the limitation, it means you know for cause for affect the rights of another person. So not because you one can protest, other person one can sell, mean to say you for go take petrol, turn up another person, they burn them alive, like waiting that mommy they say. So now, after Article 29, don't talk that. Article 30, for make una know how much United Nations not want anything where they impinge on another person in rights. Article 30, when I the last article, they're not talking about Article 29 first. Say, where they enjoy your rights, not cross go and bug other person your right, or United Nations not support that. Where they enjoy your rights, anything where you do, where contrary to what the United Nations they for winner for peace, stability, democracy, United Nations not there for that. Then Article 30, now when the last article, I they read them out for now in English first. Then I go translate inside Creole back. Inside English, Article 30 say, nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms set forth herein. End. That's so United Nations take end the Declaration on Human Rights. Inside Creole, wetin that mean? It means the United Nations, they talk say, nothing no dey na this world where anybody for do where they go affect another person in enjoyment of in rights and in freedoms, or where they go destroy another person in rights and in freedoms. So all wetin that woman talk na that audio where they threaten. All wetin that ERNEST BAI KOROMA and Poppy Adebayo they threaten from Holland. All of them one and they against the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. Because when Adebayo they threaten, say anybody will come out, then go burn you alive. When that woman they threaten, it goes against what the United Nations stands for. It is no longer a peaceful protest. Now you don't cross the line for affect another person in right for go sell in market. You don't cross the line for affect another person in rights to in freedom of movement. United Nations then take us so serious that now them put right at the end of the articles, they put and they state clearly. And they also recognize, say any law where any country going for protect another person in right, for enjoying rights, for protect the society, for protect the public, for protect democracy, for protect a democratic society. United Nations can never support anybody for broke that law day. Now listen to me, people, when they go and tell now United Nations they with we, United Nations they with we. How United Nations go there with unapan lawlessness? How United Nations go there with unapan violence? How? That make I don't take me time today, let people don't understand what the United Nations there for. Now let's come to this latest, when the sweet side is now. The latest document where United Nations pull last month, and just don't pull on last month, the United Nations Human Rights Council. When that document, this Clement Voleman been tweet about on July 8th, where then the person shaped tone and say, oh, United Nations don't say protest is now legal, protest is now legal. Hey? Those are United Nations say, oh. Look the document they front me right now. A big fat document. Now a document where United Nations restate say, anybody will want for do protest. If the country user you there, well now listen, oh. This the document. Now they look so. Now they tell you from so and the document where they pull inside July. Where then they share that tweet, where that Clement Volley the tweet from in private account. The actual document, longer document where the United Nations pull. They say if you dey inside any country, that country they get law say, before you come on a street for protest, you for apply to the authorities for permission. Make sure say you apply to the authorities. Now that United Nations say. They say you get right for protest. But if you know say you dey inside country, where that country, the laws of that country, they say, you suppose for seek permission before you come on the street. Make sure say you seek the permission, oh. Now that United Nations say. It did it. Then he go further for say, you and the authority will for give permission to your citizens there for protest na street. Make sure say if they refuse them forget access for go for review and appeal against that refusal. In other words, like when Femi Claudius Cole, they mean go say they want for protest. They right officially because that's what the law say. They couldn't write. The Inspector General of Police he called them and he dialogue with them and he tell them say no. Right now, Boku queue them a line. Boku petrol station them. Queue. If una so na they come out, this e no go fine, we no go able protect una fine. So una law wait first. When the petrol situation don't stabilize, una come back, they can choose a new date, we go protect una. That's what the police tell them. So at that point, United Nations say, when you go apply to the state authority, if he refuse for you for demonstrate, and you not agree with that refusal, you forget access for go seek a review, for make the appeal, say no, I want a review. And in this case, the review na court you they go. Now let's tell you now what happened recently in Ghana. The Ghanaian, they right say they want protest. The Ghanaian police say, no, we're not allowing for protest for so and so reason. The Ghanaians then go to court. The court say no, then people are there for protest. And the people them they end up then they protest and the police protect them because that's how the court order them. Now the question is, these are democratic tools. Now they use na Ghana. But inside Sierra Leone, we get them people the way they call themselves lawyers, political lawyers. Political lawyers. Then test case here when I them for the file in a court. They know they do amo. Before that, all day and then at Twitter, then at social media, then they mislead una, then they misguide una, then they tell una what's not supposed to happen, then they tell una like nothing for happen. Before they behave like how the Ghanaian lawyers then they behave for file. No, we get some lawyer, not all the lawyer them, but we get some lawyer there. Then they no more on Twitter for the tweets. Because they fit to say all man as salon not able to not see through the it, say na politics then they play. So before they go do what the United Nations say, if you not agree with a police refusal, the United Nations say if you not agree, the states for provide avenue for you for go to court or for you for seek an independent review. But what did they happen at Sierra Leone? Imagine though, this way they tweet, now just don't tell us so. Now United Nations say. United Nations not say if they not give permission, jump na street, so no way. They never said that. The document in the front me, so right now. Anybody wants that document, they send to me and they forward them to you. Or something they can post and save on my Facebook or my Twitter account. The document where United Nations say last month, where this Clement Volley, where then they share, waiting them protest, then say everybody get the right to protest. But you within a country where that right to protest, you for seek permission from your authorities. Make sure say you seek the permission. And you when at the authority, we're supposed to give the permission. You for make sure say the people then get avenue for appeal if you refuse not give them the permission. But what did happen at Sierra Leone? From where Femi Claudius called then go make that application. When I receive the United States government said then put out that statement then days here. Because it's just disgusting. Very disgusting behavior from some of the so-called politicians them. But you don't apply for permission for protest. You go, you and the policeman and talk. They say, okay, petrol crisis day now. This is end of June, early July. They say when petrol crisis done, Kamla will sit down and map out how una go able to do this street protest. But you don't ever go back. You don't ever go back to the police. You don't ever go back for make you and the policeman and sit down and arrange how to do the protest. But you don't go put your name now on a paper, you call yourself grassroots woman. Say una they jump na street August 8, una they jump na street August 9, una they what's kind nonsense this? What's kind uncivilized behavior this? What's kind lawless behavior this? This not a democracy. This not a leadership. This you they mislead people them because you are waiting with man called a charlatan. You are a fake. Because a genuine politician, a genuine leader will loving people them. You know, they bring them come for, make them go get problem, make them go challenge policeman. You they follow what in the United Nations say. And look the document in the front me so right now. United Nations say, you within a country, we say before you come out the street, you for seek permission. Make sure say you seek the permission. If you not seek the permission, you jump in the street, you no longer get that enjoyment where you forget from the United Nations. Yes, then go condemn if something happened to you. But the reality is that the law No United Nations not go ever condemn a state where they apply in laws. No way. So una when they tell say United Nations ready, then they will tuna. Na lie. Na lie. United Nations can never deal with una for go overrun State House. United Nations can never deal with una for go overrun Parliament. United Nations can never deal with una for go take over Presidential Lodge. No way. Not United Nations. I am a global citizen and I dey talk to una as a global citizen. United Nations not stand for that. That tweet is very misinforming. That fellow na in private account. He does not speak for the United Nations. Now, I want to now to I'm telling you, I 5 articles. I don't handle 4. I dey canal to Article 24. Article 24 of the United Nations Universal Declaration on Human Rights say every human being, he get the right for rest, for get leisure, for spend time and enjoyment with him family, for go on vacation, and for take a holiday. Every human being. The United Nations say you get the right. So in other words, if it works on site, you get the right for ask your employer. And your employer for recognize the right. Say you suppose for go after 1 year. You forget some time for rest, get vacation, go on holiday, just you and your family. This is what the United Nations say in Article 24. Now, why make they bring this up? I see a president and in family, obviously, then go on a private vacation, then go rest. Now, they're right. And make also make people they understand something. The laws of Sierra Leone say the government, the people, the taxpayers, we president and in family, we for send and go holiday every year. That's what the law say. Then for go holiday. Just like how United Nations say they get right for go holiday, then get right for go holiday. And furthermore, the law say, even when the person not a president anymore, for the rest of his life, till he die, every year, we for send and go London for holiday. Yes, that's what the law say. Every year, we for buy business class ticket for him. Not a president again, no. But any side for send and go holiday up to London. If you want to go now from London, go other side, fine. But at least up to London, we for send and go holiday. And interestingly again, the law say if president die, or even if you're not a president again, you die, you woman, when I mean the woman where they with you when you're president, that's not the person when I mean you first lady, when I was first lady. The law say we for send and go holiday any year for over 12 years, unless you go married other man. But if you not married other man, for over 12 years, every year for the send and go holiday in London. Yes, the first lady. That's what the law say. Now, people, why make they bring this up? Because then they try for make a like some kind criminal offense for the government for send the president and his wife and his family go holiday. Not an offense. Not only does the United Nations ensure that because now we employ Mother Bio and him, now we employ him. So we employ him, now we supposed for make sure say he go vacation, he go rest. Now we for pay for him. That's what the law say. And United Nations have endorsed that, Article 24. Now the man in human rights, he not go down work all year when I expect and say not for rest, not for go holiday. If for go holiday, yes. Everybody get right for go holiday. Now, some people might say, well, the man may know say Adebayo don't talk say people then for come on a street, then the man still left the country go. Well, me I don't know how some people then see him, but me the way how me see him, if the man fit to say in vice president, any ministers, any inspector general of police, than competent for handle Adebayo, ERNEST BAI KOROMA and Poppy? Why not? Why not? The only side way me they fault the president by all of this. Now the fact that they talk to people them. They talk to the country, they address the nation. And that they fault them. Because when you not talk to people, what man say nature abhors a vacuum. When you not talk to people, other person they can't talk. And when they not hear it from you, the other person where they talk, neither they believe. Take for example, one picture where then they share outside the president, then go tell Osh na one Berinos na London, one Mrs. Safa we die na London, young woman we die. So obviously that kind of Berinos, the old man go look sorry because na Berinos then go tell Osh. So then pull the picture out. For those inside people, they normally say, look, president don't run away, look where look sorry, the other run away. Yes, then sorry, because na Berinos then go tell Osh. Take that way then they talk, then say, oh, the first lady don't lost na social media. Yes. The first lady, the vacation with him family. So obviously the office of the first lady Facebook page not go work. But anybody will know Fatima Bio, no say Fatima Bio, not to one Facebook account he get him personal Facebook account. He did it. And even up to then days, he didn't have Facebook, they provoke for Arsenal football team. He and some of people they engage him as in personal life. They enjoy holiday. So Fatima Bio now lost na Facebook. Na office of the first lady na go quiet. Because no work not the way they do as first lady. But in personal accounts, look, I did it. If they provoke one man say when they call Dennis Gamanga, because me not sabi football. But they talk about Arsenal, I think Manchester United. He didn't have Facebook. Then they provoke themselves. So then they try for good at the impression so that they can give justification to una for come out na do and become lawless. But here I don't tell una, inside that last audio, the law day. Una one protest, me, Sylvia Blyden, believe you me, I swear to me, God, if the people they want for protest in this country, peaceful protest, I swear to me, God, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Sef go join for put pressure, say allow people them for protest. Petrol price don't go up, things they expensive. We people then they suffer. We want for can make the world know say we they suffer. And we want to do them peacefully. Mr. Sef go join for ask the Inspector General of Police. And if I dey tongue, Mr. Sef go join that protest day. I go hold placard. Mr. Sef go blow mind. Because Mr. Sef, they feel everybody they feel the hard times. We want to vent them out. As long as na peaceful protest. Mr. Sef go engage the police. And if the police not agree, Mr. Sef go na law court for say no, this police don't pass mark. We want for come up peaceful. They not agree. But whose policeman go give permission to you say you want to take over State House, you want to take over Parliament, you want to take over outside the president tap, you want for you burn people that with petrol, you go burn motorman with motorcar tire, you go a broke shop. No police no will give permission. No way. Una law be reasonable. And most of all my people them, once again at the call on una. Anybody will come on a street and broke the law, the one they will call themselves lawyer, then can they far nobody know they see there. Then go just scan on at the police station now for can't tell una say, oh we they represent una. Then go back na the house, then go sleep. Now una they suffer for waiting. But elections the next year, few months down the line. Me, I know say I get for votes. And I get for votes according to how my heart tell me for votes next year. And I don't talk on several times. Say next year, pass miracle. But SLPP then don't lost these presidential elections. Then don't lost her. So what's in this thing for Commander Street? For carbon motorman with petrol. What's in this thing? Ebo. Now we'll let this country pass that. So please, me people them, once again at the roundup, United Nations stands for peace. United Nations stands for peace. United Nations supports peaceful protests. United Nations can never support a violent overthrow of a democratically elected president of Sierra Leone. No way. That tweet, that man in private account. And that also round up by telling una once again, say the Sri Lanka where they tell una, they don't come out with one at the hand. Because when you get democracy, you go pull democracy for can put something where you feel to say na better. It the worse na you hand. The people they miss yourself and demonstrate. Miss yourself I want protest. But I can never be a party to lawless protest. And I call on every Sierra Leonean who believe in me, who trust me, who know say I not go ever misguide una. Make nobody not come out tomorrow. Pan lawlessness. Instead, the people that will want to protest, make we engage the Sierra Leone police and ask for permission. And if they refuse, we then use the democratic tools. We get lawyers the way they flex their muscles na social media, na Twitter. But we not go flex on our muscles na law court. All day on the lie and people them. Oh, we are going to sue. We are not going to allow these elections that you have cancelled. We are not going to do this. All na lie, bogus. If you're not a lawyer, go na law court. Get the Inspector General of Police. Let go justify why for turn we down we want for protest. But not incite people them. And they lie to them, say, that's what United Nations say. United Nations can never support that. And in the name of God Almighty, and in the name of all we people that always die for this democracy, make nobody, no fool una, say una come on a street, that's what United Nations say. No way. No United Nations no will ever support that. May God bless we all. And I go end this broadcast as I can always do, with the tune of the national anthem of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And the reason why I can play this tune, now for make when the tune they play, make we all they reflect on the words they walk and they sing, or they sing about the land that we love, our Sierra Leone. Amen.